Thanks a million for having accepted my invitation, and I'm very happy now to have this conversation with you. And I would like just to introduce your work that was posted on Journal Composition First. It's a part of a series of work and paintings that you created, and they are very special paintings, in my opinion, because they can demonstrate and show how is so complicated your practice, and especially because it takes so much time, I think, just to complete a work, arrive at the end. I think you have so many decisions that you have to take, and they are so really interesting and complicated in a certain way. So let me know better about your practice.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for including me in your online program. It's a pleasure. Yeah, so my practice, as I mentioned before, I think a lot of my work is very slow process. I did a lot of work with paper over the years. Did a lot of, for many years, I worked a lot in paper cuts, and from very small kind of wall-based pieces to more room-filling installations. And the making process there, again, it's very slow. I enjoy that very much because, you know, it allows the work to grow kind of organically, and also I get really involved in the process. And yet, so there is an element of control to it, and there is an element of no control at all. So I love that mix and how these two kind of work together. And so after I'd been working a lot with the paper, I think a couple of years, the desire grew to make it much more layered. And so I started to play with placing paper cuts behind each other. But also I came back to painting and using color, drawing lines, things that I kind of left on the side for a while. And so the painting that's in Journal is kind of a logical step for me in that process, in that I think a lot of the work is about positive and negative space. And once you start layering these, new shapes, new forms appear, and there's a bit of magic to that, because I don't plan that all ahead. And so when you add color to that, again, there's another layer where the two colors start mixing. And so this particular painting, it's part of a larger body of work that I started a while ago, and it keeps evolving. I plan in such a way that there is a kind of a rough layout to it. So I know I want to, there's two layers. There's a flat layer of color that I try and make as deep as possible. And then I start drawing with acrylic marker on top of that. And they're all hand-drawn lines, so I don't use a ruler. And so again, there is a mix of geometric, but also organic, as you know, every line is drawn by hand, and there's my hand is visible, and you know, imperfections, it's all there, and it starts to kind of breathe and live a bit more. So yeah, when I'm in that process, I have to make little decisions all the time. Which color is going to come next? Which colors sit well side by side? Do I want them to contrast more, blend in more? And so there is this element of control in that, you know, I work within a certain set of parameters, but at the same time, you know, there's no blueprint or these are the steps I'm going to take. So I think there is a nice element of surprise again to the limitations.
Yeah.
At the same time, within those, there is total freedom and anything can happen.
But I think you have a big control of your hand, because I was surprised when I saw just your paperwork, how they are so precise, because I think you need a big control of your hand, of your body, when you are there just sitting in front of your work. When you have to approach one of your work, you have just to take a big breath and then start.
Okay, well, so I think if you look up close, the paper cuts they probably look more controlled, as there is the cuts, they may come across as more perfect because of the nature of the, I work with an X-Acto blade on a cutting mat. And I think also there is an element of the hours that I've put in over the years, that they weren't like that when I first started, and still there is a natural flow to it. There are mistakes in it as well. People say, how can you not make mistakes? But I make mistakes all the time, but they become part of the piece. And I think that the hand-drawn lines, they are not quite as perfect if you look at them up close, and there's a different quality to them. So I know a lot of people have a lot more control over their hand-drawn lines than I do. But yeah, there in the paper cuts, there certainly is that element of I work much faster as well these days, but that's just having done it for so many years, and kind of I know kind of instinctively what works and doesn't work, and so the patience element, I'm not sure. People often say, you must be very patient. You must peaceful when you, but it also works the other way around. For me to get totally engaged in that process, it's sometimes nearly like a meditation. So it's not. So it is actually the other way around often.
I was thinking exactly to the meditation, because otherwise it's impossible.
Yeah, and then I lose track of time. I sit like those big paper cuts. I find a big space somewhere, because my own little studio wouldn't be big enough. And then I work on the floor. Sometimes I listen to music or podcasts, but often it's just quiet, and I become kind of one with the process and the flow of the cuts, and I don't get bored, or what time are we now? I still have to do so much. You just surrender to the process, I suppose. Yeah.
And it's beautiful how you can even for example, the paper cut, then they are a 3D installation, because even they are just a paper, but they are creating a space around, and it's the same in my opinion with your paintings, because you are always playing with just the surface, so the plane and the emptiness and full, and these lines and colors in the case of paintings, they are creating this illusion of a space inside of a painting, like how you are creating the space when you are creating your installation with the paper cut. I think there is always just your hand, your mark, your signature in both these elements, even they are different. So
I think you mentioned the word play there, and I feel like that sometimes it is playing, and be taken by the surprise of what happens when you do something you haven't done before. It's all those little discoveries that that are exciting as well. Yeah.
And then just to know how you spent your lockdown, and now how you are living this second part of reopening, and people, I can see that they are starting to live their normal, in a certain way, life also in Ireland. So let me know your point of view now about this new situation.
I live in rural County Kilkenny, and the months of lockdown have been really a time of slowing down. So that kind of really fitted in with some of the pieces I was working on. I think a lot of us have experienced that slowing down. Not the frontline workers and the essential workers. They have stepped it up, and I think we're all very grateful for that. But a lot of us have been at home, so I've been spending a lot of time with my teenage sons. We've done a lot of work in the garden, around the house, gone on bike rides, walks, and that was very enjoyable. So yeah, more time in the studio. It's been a different experience, and hopefully we can hold on to some of the positive aspects of that. And it's slowly, Ireland is slowly coming back to some form of normal, going back to people are meeting up again, moving away further from their house, back to work.
So, and I don't know if you want to just to let us know also about your experience, your recent experience in a hospital. You were there for some just not so dramatic reason, but
No.
just to know this.
In the hospital in St. Luke's in Kilkenny, and the doctors and nurses looked after me really well. It was a minor infection, and the antibiotics looked after that. So I spent 3 nights there, and it was an interesting experience in that you get a sense of the healthcare system being totally prepared for COVID patients, and even to that degree that, on other wards, you're not supposed to receive any visitors. So there is a really strange atmosphere in the hospital. It's been very quiet outside as well. You look out, it's same here, we live near a busy road, and the last couple of months, only starting up again now, but for a couple of months, you didn't hear any traffic. And same in the hospital, it's very quiet hospital, and but again, the staff were very dedicated, and grateful for that.
Yeah. And what about your project for the future? Do you have anything that you already planned for now?
Yeah. So as I mentioned in the journal, that I'm hoping to bring the painting, that process into a bigger mural piece. And I, before going into hospital, I'd hoped that I would have started that already, but I've recovered enough now, so that I think I will start with it next week. And that is what I'm excited about at the moment.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, I think.
So it's a big wall, probably 20 meters long, and I'll let you know how I get on.
Yeah, no, I'm curious to see how you are developing your practice in in this dimension, and especially on a mural. So a different medium, because you are using another surface, so you are experimenting something new, I think, for you. And
or I think outdoor is a new, relatively new thing as well. So
it's beautiful to know now that you are well, and you are going now to create something new, and I'm sure that it will be fantastic. So I'm curious to see. So thanks a million for this conversation, and hope
thank you.
to see you in the reality, and hope to see this mural at the end when it's everything. It will be fine. I hope so. So thanks a million.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah.